Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome. So I know that I said I wasn't going to do a video this week, but my good friend Williams, who has been so kind to be hosting me here on my little trip to England, was like, hey, let's record something and we can throw it up on your channel. So I have a surprise video after all. This week. It's just not going to be a character build, and it's not particularly scripted. It's more going to be just a little conversation between friends. So I hope you enjoy it. And hi, Will. How's it going?
Yeah, it's going good. I'm excited for what we're talking about today as well. I should say
For the 4 or 5 people who may not know who you are.
Yeah, okay.
That watch my channel. It's hard to believe there might not be any. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Will. I'm a friend of Colby's. I do sort of similar but lighter, shorter, more incorrect content, less research content on Dungeons and Dragons, just for fun. And I mostly these days, honestly, I write D&D books, and I do fundraisers for TTRPGs and charities. That's basically like 80% of it now. It feels like.
Sure.
But I'm still on YouTube. I'm still making videos.
Yeah. The joke is D&D shorts.
D&D shorts.
D&D
longs. Yeah.
Together we are D&D mediums.
D&D mid. Yeah. We're extremely D&D mid together.
I have a cold. And I'm really hoping that I do not give it to you.
It's fine. Honestly, I came prepared. If
that
it's
would be
a little
like the worst
sickness.
Way to return
the favor,
the kindness of your hospitality.
No, it's very fair. Like I say, I have nephews. They go to nursery. They constantly bring back germs, and then they sneeze in my face, kindly, as children do. So I'm sure that I have 1,000. I've probably already had this cold.
One day when my kids are out of the house, I think I will never get sick again.
Yeah, that's it. Finally, the shutters go up.
Yeah. That's my hope. All right, so today we are. Well, let me set this up. So a few weeks ago, as most of you know, I put out a ranking the classes in D&D video right up there. I'll link to it if you missed it or you want to refresh. And in that video, I gave only 2 classes a D rank. Right? And I said these are the weakest base classes in D&D today. The Rogue, which surprised very few people, I think, and the Monk, which surprised more people and upset even some of you. And so I thought today it might be kind of fun to have a little conversation around maybe how, if you and I could wave a magic wand and fix the Rogue and the Monk, or at least maybe make them a little more balanced, how would we do it? What would that look like?
Yeah.
And maybe even a conversation about what might be wrong with the Monk and the Rogue. What might they be missing? And we might not necessarily agree on all of these points, which is great. That's fine. It's a conversation. But yeah, we can kind of.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting. I'm interested to see. So I'm guessing you put Ranger at C, because I haven't seen the video.
Yes.
Yeah. So. Did they maybe creep
Ranger
into?
got B.
Oh wow. Okay.
I think Barbarian was my only C.
Only C. So it really is the problem with the fully martials that aren't fighters came down very low for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I feel like just scaling generally tended to be an issue.
Yeah.
They're generally quite good in the early levels, but once you get past 5, 6, maybe
6,
8, 9.
Mm-hmm.
You don't even have like older children.
No, I do. I've got nephews who are like
annoyed to death
9,
by that.
Yeah. My younger sister's nephews, are 8 and 9, so I do get this. Yeah. Okay. So I think I would have been surprised. Like, I've never really sat down and tried to rank every class in that way. I've ranked classes by my favorites. Mm-hmm. But I've never sat down and ranked every class in terms of how do they actually run the numbers, or how do they feel like they fall off. I would have expected Monk to have at least been C tier.
Yeah.
If rogues are D, but why don't you? We'll start with monk, and do you want to run us through the core issues that you see, and we'll see kind of like how I vibe with.
Yeah. Let me summarize why I think monks struggle. I would say they are more powerful than rogues generally. They were kind of higher
in
D.
the D. Okay, yeah.
But still, to me, D. And the main reasons I suppose are, when I was looking at the classes, I was trying to think about them from the perspective of not just damage, but like how do they fare in damage, for survivability, for utility, for control, for support, right? And I kind of tried to give them a score for each of those.
Oh, okay, right? Yeah. So there was numbers.
Right.
We had numbers.
And what I found with the monk, at least personally, was that they just tended to not really excel in any one category. And some they were fairly weak, and then even in their best ones they were mediocre. And whereas the rogue might excel at utility but kind of suffer in most other areas, right? The monk was just kind of like mid, D&D mid.
Yeah, D&D mid.
Or worse in kind of everything. Now, some people would take issue with that and say their survivability is actually way better. They have deflect attacks now that works on all attacks, not just ranged attacks.
They have good saves.
They can get good saves very late game. They've got lots of movement, right? But defense-wise, yeah, like they're solid. And my counter to that is deflect attacks is good. I like it, and it only works on one attack per round, right?
Yes, it's your reaction,
and it uses your reaction. So not only is that going to reduce your potential to maybe get an opportunity attack or whatever, but it doesn't take very long before you get enemies in D&D that are regularly making multi-attack.
Oh, yeah.
You're very often fighting multiple enemies. It only reduces bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage until, level 13?
Yeah, it's right? Which is
all of the game for most of us, right? And, bludgeoning, piercing, slashing damage is most damage for most of that time, but it's not all damage. We're going to see other stuff. So, it is really great for one attack, but beyond that, it doesn't do much for us. And then our AC is still not very strong until we can get our dexterity and our wisdom all the way up.
So, yeah, right? And even then, 20 AC by level 12, maybe you get 20 in both. It's not even, it's
I mean, and there's magic, there's...
You've got your braces of defense
and things like that, but, that there's no guarantee, and there's magic armor, so...
Yeah, exactly. With even just a shield and half plate will get most people to 19 at level 1.
Right.
Most DMs will let you start with half plate. So I think, monks, I think that's a potential change we can talk about, is bumping their defense a little more.
Sure. So I think they struggle with defense more than a lot of people think. And then, a lot of the counter argument there is people are like, well, no, they make so many attacks that, you get that extra flurry of blows at level 11, which again is late game if ever for most of us. But it's like, the reality is, until then, you're making 4 attacks at most. We're talking straight class monks, no multi-classing, right? You get your extra attack at 5, and then your flurry of blows, which costs you a resource. Granted, it comes back on a short rest, but still 4 attacks, and that don't hit particularly hard, right? They just, if you crunch numbers, if you do builds, like I do so many monk builds, and it's so difficult for me to get them to compete with even fighters, to say nothing of spellcasters.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When it comes to just being able to put out damage, especially after level 5 or so, especially if you're not multi-classing, where you can take weapon masteries and get nick.
Yeah, you
can make another attack, right? And get 2-weapon fighting in that case, so that you can actually do a little bit more damage with all of your attacks. Like they just and even at 11, when you get that third flurry of blows, at that point you're talking what would be an extra D10 plus 5 probably, right? Which it just is still not going to be keeping up with fighters that get a whole additional attack with a weapon that's probably going to be hitting harder, especially if you're doing like a great weapon master build, or you have you've got a flame tongue longsword.
Yeah, you've got to assume
right?
that the fighter is also optimizing.
Right.
If you're going to say if we optimize the monk.
Right. Even barbarians, I think, at that point, because you're at least getting rage. Again, you probably are making great weapon fighter type. There's no way to sort of inherently enhance the unarmed strikes.
That is a definite
with
issue.
Feats or anything.
Yeah, there's a lacking. That's a consideration, and maybe it's possible to buff the monk entirely via external to the class things. Maybe they need a great weapon fighting style feat for unarmed strikes.
Yeah.
But I think that's a good starting point for fixing the monk. We have damage is maybe a little too low. Basically, no control options.
Stunning strike
outside of stunning strike is good.
Stunning strike, grappling, right? And they're arguably the best grapplers in game now. I think,
thanks to the dex change.
To use dexterity and to drag people around and stuff like that. And they make so many unarmed strikes anyways, right? So there's decent grappling, stunning strike, but stunning strike, of course, is so divisive because it's either really, really good or worthless. Do you know what I mean? It seems like and a Constitution save, you can only do it once per turn. You gotta use a key point, a focus point. You can't spam it. Most enemies are going to save against it more often than not. It's based on your wisdom modifier, and
which you have
probably
to
going dexterity. Like
again, until level DC 12 or 16, you're not going to get it really high.
Very little to any support features outside of maybe some subclass stuff for the most part.
Yeah, some subclasses, but we'll kind of leave those on the table for now, as in subclass, because you could. I think the first and most obvious change to the monk that I see people talk about is a D8 hit die. I always thought has always felt low to me.
Yeah.
For a martial, it feels odd that the ranger and the paladin have a D10, but the monk doesn't.
Right.
I can understand the rogue at a D8.
For someone who is really meant to be in melee, almost all of their features are built around being a melee fighter type, right? A D8, I think you're right, is too low. So
I think that's a really quick and easy buff. Boom, a D10 is 1 extra hit point per level. Mm-hmm. That's not insignificant. No. That's a hill dwarf.
Sure.
Sure. So that's an easy change. It's kind of the effortless one, I suppose. What do you think about? So we need to find a way to either get damage up or get control up. Would you hope for damage that will keep you comparable with a fighter at least, right?
Standard fighter. Okay. So a couple of thoughts. One, despite what some people think, I actually don't feel like every single class should be able to do like this exact same amount of damage as every single other class.
Okay, yeah.
Like I'm okay with some discrepancy, and maybe this class tends to be a little bit better at like dealing damage and survivability, whereas this class is close but maybe not quite as good, but maybe they bring a little bit more in the utility department or the control department or the support department or whatever, right? Or of course some classes might be way down the scale on support, but like then they bring on damage, but then they bring a lot
of support.
You know what I mean? And
or
like
healing,
that's great and awesome and as should be. I just think that so I don't necessarily think monks should do exactly as much damage as fighters, but I feel like they should maybe get closer, especially in the higher levels, right, where the scaling really kind of falls off. And then like maybe they're not quite as good as survivability, but maybe they have a little more control potential or a little more support potential or whatever, right, utility, etc. But so yes, I do though think that we could bring their damage up. What would be some ways that you think might work that would be balanced?
I think giving. You know what I would like to see? I think we might have spoken about this before, potentially. I would like to see weapon mastery for monks. Mm-hmm. And I would like a monk exclusive weapon mastery option that applied to unarmed strikes.
Unarmed strikes. Yes.
So it could be as simple as the Tavern Brawler feat style thing where you can take both the damage and grapple, or the damage and knock prone. I think it's damage and grapple for Tavern Brawler, isn't it? At the same.
Well, Tavern Brawler lets them.
Is it?
Lets you re-roll on ones.
Oh, is that the Tavern Brawler?
And then it's the grappler fighting style.
Oh, the grappler fighting style is like you punch and grapple. I would like to see something like a weapon mastery that would let you damage and grapple at the same time on an unarmed strike. Or you could look at you don't want to eat someone else's lunch. But like, look at the open hand monk has like a thing that does, you do bonus things on unarmed strikes.
You can push or shove.
You can maybe grab that into the core monk.
Knock him down.
Just to give all monks that choice. And then you could, or you could take that, or you could have the option.
Sorry.
That's right. For grabbing the Nick weapon mastery, which is a great one, as we already discussed, because monks can use daggers. And I think that would be that would make sense to me in terms of verisimilitude. Like, monks are masters of combat. It feels odd if they're allowed to use monk weapons. Presumably they're really good with them. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that a monk martial artist with a staff would be as good as with that staff as a fighter is with their sword.
Sure.
You know what I mean? I think that's reasonable. Like Donatello is just as good as Shredder. You know, like, who's more of a fighter, right? Like, in terms of
or Leonardo.
Yeah, Leonardo. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. In theory. Yeah. So I think a fighting style would go a long way. Which
what if
a level 2 fighting style option would help.
What if, back to weapon masteries?
Weapon mastery. Yeah. That's
what if they were given like a choice, and it could be flavored almost like a stance or something, where your unarmed strikes and or your monk weapons can adopt 2 of these following fighting styles: Nick, Topple, or Vex, or something like that.
So the fighting styles can apply to your unarmed strikes, and you just choose 2.
Yeah. And then you could say, okay, great, I'm gonna do Nick, and I'm gonna do Topple, because I'm a martial artist and I'm tripping people, but I'm also attacking really fast.
So you're sweeping the leg and you're getting an extra pop in.
Or Vex, or Sap, or Slow, that would sort of look like you're hitting their
center
point.
Yeah, exactly. And the center of their key. Yeah, I think that would be wonderful.
And maybe you even flavor that, like I say, like Mantis style or Tiger style. I'm just drawing on Kung Fu Panda now.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, Crane style,
Panda style.
You'd have to think about the best way to make it as broad a flavor as possible. Like, if someone wants to be more of a boxer, but that would be great, because and you could even do stances that did. If you wanted your monk to lean into a tankier role, maybe you could have a stance that was like
mountain style. Yeah,
it's like +1 AC or something, or +2 AC.
Yeah.
Like giving you a shield like a fighter has.
And now we're talking about maybe 2 different things, like working in some sort of like actual like stance.
Or one of them's just
similar
a choice
to what Alan's doing with DC 20, which I really love. But even if you didn't want to get that complicated, just simply giving
choose 2
weapon masteries to unarmed strikes and or monk weapons,
and you just
making that part of their monk's focus feature or martial arts feature or something like that.
Yeah, level 2, maybe fighters. What level do fighters get the opportunity to do 2 at a time?
Oh, not till like 9.
So
10?
So maybe you get 1 at level 2 and then 2 at a time to trip Topple and Nick at level. Level 9 along with acrobatic movement. I think that would be pretty reasonable. I'm looking at the monk breakdown right now.
I could see that. There's some complications, if you're going to do Nick specifically, in that Nick is supposed to apply to light weapons only, and like in that case you're not adding your dexterity modifier to the attack of the Nick attack unless you take the 2-weapon fighting style, and so maybe that might get a little messy. And maybe you give them a fighting style. I mean, I know that's really kind of just that's a fighter thing. Fighters and fighter druids,
ranger and
fighter clerics.
Yeah.
Rather than barbarians don't get fighting styles, rogues don't get fighting styles, right? Just weapon masteries. But fighting styles are so important to like a 2-weapon fighting setup when you're doing lots of attacks. That I feel like it would be important to try and work that in. So whether you give monks fighting styles and just say, I know this was supposed to be a fighter thing, but monks are martial artists, and so they get a fighting style too.
I could see it being not unreasonable. I mean, are there good fighting style options? There's the unarmored. No, there's the defensive fighting style, but you have to wear armor for that. Are there good monk fighting styles? Would you have to come up with?
I mean,
some customs.
Nick is the one that I would want.
Oh, the two weapon fighting. Yeah.
Sorry, 2-weapon fighting.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to. When I'm editing this, I'm gonna have to watch for when it peaks.
It like jumps up and you can.
Go, that's what I call it. Yeah, like 2-weapon fighting is the most important thing to me. So maybe it doesn't have to be a fighting style. Maybe you just say, all attacks made with monk weapons and or unarmed strikes, add your dexterity modifier.
Yeah, you could find the
regardless
wording
of
But maybe then you ditch tying them to weapon mastery technically.
Right.
And instead you just give effects that are weapon masteries.
Sure.
So it's like when you just pick, and you don't replicate Nick wording exactly, you just say when you take the attack action you can make one additional attack. But don't add your dex modifier, later on you do.
Like your idea of working in the open hand features to just base class. Similar to a lot of people say that the Battlemaster Fighter, the maneuvers, should have been for 5.5. They should have just made those part of base.
Yeah, that was a really common request before they didn't even. I don't think there was even a playtest where they tried that, but that was definitely what I saw the community asking for a lot.
Zeitgeist.
Yeah, it was very up there.
Yeah, and maybe you could do the same thing with kind of that open hand, where say, hey, when you make unarmed strikes or attacks with monk weapons, once per turn you can topple, attempt to topple or push, but maybe. Grapple. Maybe also, or make an additional attack, if you forego the topple option or whatever, you know what I mean? Like you do one of these things, and just make them weapon mastery.
Yeah, wording. You can look at the wording and almost replicate it.
You can
make it work for
make an additional attack, attempt to topple, attempt to push,
and attempt to grapple
or something.
You need to get down in the numbers and work out like how good is that extra attack compared to an attempt at a shove.
Sure.
But yeah, you could maybe give a guaranteed. Well, I mean, a guaranteed prone might be a bit much though, as well, because that's advantage on every subsequent attack. But there's definitely ways to do it. Yeah. I think there's definitely ways to do it, and I think that would help with damage and also give a bit of choice.
Make it a little more interesting.
Here's like a one I'm just looking down the monk abilities over here, and I have a thought. What do you think about the possibility of giving the monk an extra ASI at 10th level, like the rogue has? Because monk are a very mad class already.
So 10th level is tough because they get a lot at 10th level. That's when they get heightened focus, which is a big deal for them. That's when they get their third flurry of blows. And
so
they can bring somebody with them when they do Step of the Wind, et cetera, and they get the self-restoration thing. So it's already a little busy. 9th level is the worst level for monks, though.
The acrobatic movement is nothing.
It's running up walls and across water, but just on your turn. So maybe at 9th level, I know that feels
just
weird.
Just straight after it.
Yeah, it's
like
never
been on
9. But you move. Let's say you move heightened focus to 9.
Back one,
and you give them
the
an extra ASI. At 10.
What is self restoration?
It's a self heal.
Maybe that could go to 9.
Sure.
I mean, self restoration. Okay, yeah, it's not.
Oh yeah, no. Sorry, you can end. That's right. You end charm, frightened, or
so really, heightened focus is a huge thing.
Yes.
So it's like giving it even one level earlier feels very strong, but self-restoration feels pretty nothingy. Still, level 10 would be huge for the monk.
Level 10 to get heightened focus and an extra ASI feels like too much.
Too much. Okay, so you'd either have to move heightened focus down,
and I don't mind
level 9 heightened focus.
I never mind buffing monks in any.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I think monks at level 9 level 9 versus level 10. It's like. The wizard's got Wall of Force,
Yeah.
Maybe levels 9 and 10, the monk would be the best martial for a little while before the fighters get their extra attack. But that's kind of the point we're trying to make. We're trying to make monks better, significantly better. Do you think there's any late game features that the monk needs? We've kind of sorted about.
Well, you know what? Okay, so this is a great question because at the end of the day, when once you hit level 11 and beyond, right, monk scaling is almost non-existent damage-wise.
D10 to D12.
They're gonna get at level 17. Their martial arts die goes from a D10 to a D12. That's really the only damage increase that they see from level 10 on, right?
Yeah.
And it's not a big increase. And that's where they really kind of struggle, I think, because with let's say with a fighter or with a barbarian even, the likelihood is that they're using weapons and they're using magic weapons, and the magic weapons that exist currently in game are just way better than any sort of magic fist wraps that exist in game, right? Now, of course, you can homebrew that, and maybe it's
flame
not an
tongue
issue. And if you could get flame tongue fist wraps,
yeah.
then monks are going to do a lot better generally than I claim.
Yeah, of course, because they do make a lot of attacks, so it's nice. You get that weapon triggering more and more and more.
But if we're talking just what exists, rules as written, official content, like they struggle. And there's feats, like, if you're trying to optimize your fighter or your barbarian for damage, like, you're just going to get a lot more mileage out of, something like a great weapon master feat is going to come along, and when a fighter is making 3 or 4 attacks on their turn, if they have a bonus action that can be weaponized, etc., and they're getting to add their proficiency bonus and damage every single time thanks to great weapon master, and they probably have a magic weapon. You know what I mean? It's hard for monks to keep up, and getting an extra flurry of blows that does maybe 10 more damage is just not going to compare by a long shot. And so I just feel like, as you get into kind of tier 3 and tier 4 of play, they're going to need more, whether you're homebrewing a magic item for them or you're giving them something else. Now, what that something else might be is difficult. If you've given them weapon mastery like things from the get-go, right, and they have the ability to maybe nick, right, with monk weapons or unarmed strikes, then now the scaling is less of an issue because they started a little bit higher, right? And so even if things are plateauing, that's not as much of a that's not as big a deal. But I don't know, because you can't really scale martial arts. I mean, I guess you could do 2d6. You could up the scaling.
You could knock it up again.
Right.
Yeah. 2d6 is slightly better.
Yeah, it is. So, but what would you do, like a D10 at level 11 and then a D12 at level 14, 15,
yeah,
and
18,
then 2d6 at
or you
17,
just
18.
cut straight to 2d6 at level 17. I mean, you're giving, that's only 1 extra damage on average per attack.
It's half
of it's okay.
It's very little.
Yeah, it's probably not even. I think the reason they stick to 1d12 is because of the idea that it's per hit. 2d6 to me implies a bam bam.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, rather than a.
Although a great sword is 2d6.
I mean, yeah, that's actually very true, and that is just one big.
What if you? I mean,
so
could you give them yet another attack, or maybe add like some sort of flat modifier to their attacks?
Add your wisdom modifier to.
Sure.
I mean, that would be pretty.
That would probably be too much.
Yeah, but
maybe. But I mean, like rage. With rage, you're getting an extra 2 or 3 or 4 damage per hit. Could you give monks a rage-like ability and call it, I don't know, that you're attacking their spirit, you're dampening their.
Yeah, you could do
chi.
something. Let's think about this. Maybe you could do something like you have a bonus to damage rolls equal to the number of focus points you spend that turn. So if you spend a focus point on a stunning strike and you spend a focus point on flurry of blows, everything has a +2 damage. As long as that's not exploitable with a plus. Can you take 4 focus points or 10 focus points to do something and then get a +10 damage?
Maybe with subclass,
but
right?
Maybe there's
because
something to do
as a mercy monk, for example, you could be doing like Hand of Harm and spending a 3rd focus point there, and I don't know if there's something else, but
maybe is there something you could do, like a new a new way to just burn resources, because you have a lot of focus points by the end of the game, and less. It actually, with a recharge on a short rest, maybe you get a feature around level 15, 14. Disciplined Survivor is not that exciting. In fact, they only get one feature, deflect energy.
Disciplined Survivor is where they get all. They get.
Oh, I thought that was perfect focus.
They get their saving throw.
Oh, okay. Yes, that is really good. Yeah, 15. Perfect focus is not very exciting. That's when you roll initiative, you get expended focus points if you have 3 or fewer. Very rare that's going to come up, seeing as you get 15 on a short rest.
Right.
So I would say maybe take level 15 and we give them a new use for focus points, which is like at the start of your turn, you can spend up to 3 focus points. You have a bonus to damage rolls equal to the result.
That feels easier than trying to track
how many you've spent. And then you can just be like, okay, screw it. I'm taking 3 focus points. I'm dealing an extra. You're making 6 attacks because you've got the nick thing. I'm dealing an extra 18 damage for 3 focus points.
I like that.
It's expensive, but it doesn't matter. If you know it's the last fight, you go all out. This is, I'm sorry, Master, I must go all out. You burn through your resources much more aggressively, but that's quite significant extra damage.
I like that, and in fact, I would say you could do. I would say you could introduce that earlier, but cap it, and let that cap scale as they level. So, for example, maybe at level 6 or something, 6 or 7, you can do it, but you can only do 1 focus point.
Yes, and then
at level 11
it
you
goes
can
up
do 2.
Yeah.
And then at 15 you can do 3 or something like that. So at call it level 7, at the beginning of your turn you can spend a focus point and add 1 extra damage to all of your attacks with monk weapons and unarmed strikes this round. That increases to a maximum of 2 at level 11,
you can spend 2
maximum of 3
when you have the
15
resources to spend.
Could you call it enhanced focus or something like that?
Yeah.
Could you add that to your hit and damage, or just to damage?
I mean, plus 2 to hit. The problem with adding stuff to hit, I always get this criticism whenever I try anything with plus to hit from our balance checkers on Ryoko's, because I mess around with. I really do play with everything I can think of. Is because of sort of bounded accuracy. The balance checkers really hate anything that can stack with a plus 3 weapon. They really hate anything that isn't just advantage or disadvantage. They're like, it just goes too crazy because you have a plus 3 wraps and you're adding plus 3 to your hit. Suddenly you're attacking for sort of plus 17. Sure. When it's all stacked up.
To be fair,
to hit.
To be fair, the Devotion Paladin exists.
Yeah, that's true, and that's a plus 5.
And they get to add their charisma modifier.
And no one's complaining. Well, I mean, they're a good subclass, but no, I've not heard anyone be like Devotion Paladins are a real problem.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't call them a real problem, but I would call them one of the strongest classes and subclasses in the game.
It's fantastic. And they can throw that out every combat encounter now as well.
Yeah.
Different discussion, I know, but yeah. So maybe it could be to attack and damage.
You're making a lot of attacks.
Cheeky. Yeah, it's a lot of. It bumps the damage a lot.
But like, even if you're making, let's say at level 7, see, and this is part of the issue that I tend to have, right? Is that without a very few specific magic items, monks are not getting
the magic
bonuses to their
attacks. Whereas
to their hit
fighters are, barbarians are.
Plus 1 weapons are a dime a dozen, right?
Yeah.
And sure, you could get plus 1 fist wraps, or you could get the claws, the
Eldritch Claw tattoo.
Yeah,
that is a good magic
Eldritch Claw tattoo. But there's no, in the official content anyways, you just don't see as much like unarmed strikey magic items that are going to benefit, and fewer that go beyond a plus 1.
Yeah,
I don't know. We don't need to make the decision.
I mean, I will write this up, guaranteed, because I'm excited by the thought. Maybe it could be something like, it's a choice. So there's enhanced focus. You have a bonus to attack rolls equal to the amount of focus points you spend. And then there's enhanced strike, and you have a bonus to damage. So if you're fighting a very high AC enemy, and you're like, I need to
and you can
lock in and
decide.
just
You can
go
decide
for
when you spend the
when you
focus
spend
point.
it for that turn. Whereas if you're fighting a giant.
Sorry.
No, it's all right. Yeah. We're locking in. We've got more cough drops if you need them. This is good. It shows that you're like merely a man. People think he's untouchable, but humbled by microbes, if you can believe that.
Oh my gosh.
Like War of the Worlds over here.
Yeah.
But yeah, then you have a choice, right? And if you're fighting a giant monster with, it's just a hulking brute, and its AC is 8, but it's got a bajillion hit points.
Yeah.
You can be like, I'm going to just go in all I can, and then if you've got to be really calculated, you're fighting an armored.
And it would give you something to play with, like, so, if you have the ability to try and knock your enemy prone, and thus get yourself advantage, well, then maybe you're more regularly going to take the plus to damage. But like if you've made a different choice,
you might be going just getting the
advantage is a little harder to come by for you. Then you're going to favor the plus to hit.
And you could even say, if again, like I don't want to get because I love designing stuff. But if we're getting to the point where you can spend 2 and then 3, you could maybe spend 1 on each. If you wanted.
Yeah.
I'll get a +1 to attack rolls and damage rolls for 2 focus points, and then I'll get a +2 to attack rolls, +1 to damage, or +3. You can split it up how you like.
Sure.
That would make. I mean, would you?
I'm a fan.
Yeah. But I feel like we both like monks a lot.
Yeah,
I wonder if we're pushing them too hard.
I am notorious for saying monks are my favorite class, and they're always not strong enough. So yeah.
But something about. Some combination of those changes would get there, and I will write them up into a revised monk because I suppose we should mention you're happy with the focus points scaling with level, and you're happy with unarmored movement. I'm guessing you wouldn't be like give them more focus points or.
No, I think the uncanny metabolism solved that focus point problem.
Yeah, I agree
pretty handily. And so I'm totally cool with where they're at focus point wise. Anything that you'd change like defensively? D10.
I think a D10 is fine.
And then
the AC is always. I think it's fine for the monk to have weaknesses as well.
Sure.
The monk is. I've said this before, but it's the most xenophobic class in the game. It's so hard to multi-class aggressively if you really want to do the monk things because not your martial arts die is tied to your level and your focus points are tied to your level.
Outside of maybe a 1-level fighter dip.
Yeah.
So that you can pick up a weapon mastery and a fighting style.
Yeah. You can make it work, but yeah, it's very hard. So I don't mind having those weaknesses remain. I don't mind being like, okay, monks really just got to be monks with a little dip at best,
Yeah.
Maybe I've seen people dick a level in Barbarian too.
Sure.
If you can spare the strength.
For a little
ASI.
rogue.
For
a little sneak attack or something.
But it's hard to go more than 3 levels. You're really hard to go more than 3 levels. I don't mind keeping that as an issue, and I don't mind keeping the slightly lower AC in exchange for all this movement and the bonus action dash if you ever want to disengage if you ever want to take it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think
I'm happy
bumping their hit die to a D10. It might be enough. I might not give enough credit to their defensiveness. Deflect attacks is quite good. It's just not that good if you are getting like focus fired. And so people would say, well, you're supposed to like be a mobile, agile striker where you're getting in, you're getting out.
Yeah.
And it's like I understand that mentality, but like my damage is so dependent on my bonus action, like Flurry of Blows.
Yeah, it's so rare that monks actually do anything other than Flurry of Blows.
That if you're really just going in, taking the attack action, and then spending a focus point to Step of the Wind and disengage, then your damage goes through the floor.
Yeah, it's catastrophic.
And so then it's just like. So yeah, I think you've got to be in there and stay in there and use your focus points for damage if you want to be at all comparable. And then if the enemies decide to try and blow you up, well, you can reduce one of their attacks to nothing or next to nothing. But if you're getting hit 3 or 4 times, it's not going to do much for you. But maybe just a few more hit points, is fine. And again, like you say, it's not like they don't need to be the best at everything, even though I would love for them.
Yeah, it would be. I feel
so
like
if they're a little squishier, maybe that's okay, right?
How do they compare to? Let's think about it, because where do they sit? They probably have better AC than the Rogue anyway. Which is a different.
Depends. Probably depends on. Does the Rogue have magic armor? I mean, they got studded leather plus
two,
dex.
so 17. Maybe you're hoping for.
Yeah.
Whereas
a monk might be at the same time with non-magical stuff.
Yeah.
Might be at an 18 when the Rogue's at a 17.
16 to 18. But that might be more that the Rogue is weak as well.
And the Rogue has uncanny dodge, but that's not as good as deflect attacks.
Yeah,
probably.
That's
generally depending on what the damage is.
Yeah, if it comes in big. So what I mean, the inability to hold a shield basically takes away that +2 ever, and also means you can't have a magic shield, I suppose, as well.
Right. Could
no armor, no magic armor.
If we're gonna go with our let's work in fighting styles, let's work in weapon masteries and or fighting styles. If we're working in a fighting style or a fighting style like thing to their chassis, maybe the defensive fighting style is one to give options,
one of an option. Right? Yeah,
instead you could do the equivalent of a 2-weapon fighting style. You could do the equivalent of a defensive fighting style.
Yeah, just unarmed.
Even a protection or intercepts. I like the idea of
just as
being
having
able to
an option.
You've got a friend standing next to you and you're like batting away an enemy attack.
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
Like that.
Could be good. Flavor.
Yeah, I think something like that would be fun. And then you're not just straight up buffing them in every way, but you're giving them choices to say, hey, look, if you want a little more defense, you can take it. If you want a little more offense, you can take it.
Yeah, then it's a trade. A +1 AC is not insignificant, especially when you can get to 20 just by buffing your stats. Sure. Especially if we give them... I think the AC is helped by the ASI.
Yeah.
As well, because getting to 20 in both is
you're right.
mandatory.
If you get that extra ASI at 10,
you hopefully would. Let's think you start with 16 in both right now. You hopefully 17,
potentially 17
16. Then
depending
you
on if you want to go con or wisdom, but you probably want to go wisdom as a monk.
And then you get 18 and 18, 17.
18 at 4, 20 at 8. And now you can buff your wisdom at 10.
At 10, and then so it is 12.
So by 12 you'd be 20 AC,
and that's foregoing. You don't get your feats. Maybe you get 1/2 feet,
which is the same as somebody wearing plate with a shield. And they probably had that at 5 or 6.
Yeah, they probably did.
But again, I don't hate that.
That's your slower.
Yeah, I'm okay if a big plate wearing shield using character is a little tankier than someone in no armor that's just very fast. You know what I mean? That's fine.
There's one other defensive change I've just remembered that we could do, which has never been done before, and I think it's like a big no-no in terms of Wizards of the Coast. We don't do this, but what about giving them proficiency in Dex and Wisdom saves as their saving throw instead of Strength and Dex? Because they're the two big saves in the game.
Right, and along with con.
And maybe. People don't... Yeah, Wizards give...
Con is less important to non-spellcasters, I guess.
Yeah.
Right,
but
so
Wizards,
you're right.
There is no... They do not ever give Dex and Wisdom together. Because Dex and Wisdom would make sense for a Ranger as well.
Sure.
They don't give it. It would make sense for a Monk. That would be a nice defensive
It would definitely be a defensive boon. They do get the ability to end a charmed or frightened condition on themselves at higher level, right? Is that at 14?
No, that was the self-restoration, 10th.
Okay, yeah. And most of the wisdom saves that you're making in the game are tied to charmed and frightened.
They're
not
the
all.
Big two.
Not all.
No, but you're right. Yeah, they are. And mind control, I suppose, dominate person.
Yeah, but again, those are wisdom saves. Right?
Yeah, but they are probably charmed.
But
like they charm you to do them. Yeah, you're right. Wisdom save.
I don't know. I mean, again, I will never say no to a monk buff.
Yeah.
I never saw a monk buff that I didn't like. I don't know if it's necessary.
It's a different angle to buff defense. If you're still thinking defense is too low,
and it just there's something about it that rubs me the wrong way. Thinking like nobody gets like like 2 good saving proficiencies.
And you
they all
want to keep
get
it
one good one and
one
one less good
Okay,
one.
yeah, so that's fair.
And that just feels like
It's too much.
cheating. Even though I'm calling for all these other buffs.
Well, even with all these buffs stacked on, would that there are classes you put in S tier. Would the monk would not go to S tier with this? Would it go to B tier?
I don't think so. I think it might be B or maybe A, depending on how many of these we put in.
Yeah. If we just stack them all in,
yeah.
does it go to A tier?
I think
that's where we should aim.
In my head, I'm thinking high B, low A.
Okay, and I think that's a healthy place.
Yeah. And some people watching are going to be like, "You guys are insane. They're already B.
Yeah, they already
at least." And now you're going to make them the strongest class in the game, and that's okay. To disagree.
Some people, they rate spellcasting very differently. Some people really treat spellcasting as the mass suggestion, wall of force. They treat them. I do as unbelievable.
Yeah.
And to kind of compete with. I made a rogue subclass once that gave the rogue the ability to cast shape change when they reach level 17. And it made sense in the context of the flavor, which I won't go into now, but you could shape change into the creature you stole a bit of their soul from. And I think that's the type of stuff we need to do for martials. You know what I mean? If you're going to keep up with people casting Wish or Simulacrum or Clone.
I recently put out like my fighter subclass tier rankings video, boop, up there, and at the end, can't make me laugh.
Sorry.
Woo. No, please do make me laugh. I'm okay with the coughing. Sorry to everybody else, but at the end of that, I didn't include Echo Knights.
Oh, really?
In my rankings.
No, Mamosa.
Only because Wizards of the Coast seem to have sort of relegated them to unofficial content now.
I think they basically
even though they used to be official, but now they're sort of at the bottom of the pile. It's a guest
subclass.
Yeah.
It's sort of treated maybe more along the lines of like the Rick and Morty content, what I mean, that they had, or the Lord of the Rings content they have.
But anyways, I was like, look, because they sort of seem to have been relegated to this unofficial status, I'm not going to rank them. If I did, they would be S, and at the top of the list. They're very good. They're very strong. Some people would say overpowered, but then it's like, I don't think I would call them overpowered, only in the greater context of all classes and subclasses.
Yeah.
There are still plenty of subclasses that are more powerful than an Echo Knight. Generally full casters, all are, I think, maybe with the exception of Cleric. That's going to upset some people.
Oh, you think clerics are a bit weaker than
fighters?
No, not fighters, but like cleric subclasses.
No, I just in my rankings I put clerics just below fighters.
Oh wow! Okay.
Like, and I love that you disagree with me.
No, I'm surprised, but like I said, I've never bumped the numbers, but. In my head, clerics exist in a world of Twilight clerics and in a world of peace clerics. Sure. So I take them in the context of this unbelievable.
I'm thinking base class only.
But base. I mean, I could see it. They don't have many.
They're very good, and
good buffs,
plenty of people watching right now are like, Colby's an idiot.
Yeah, going.
And that's fine. But anyways, Echo Knights.
Clerics. I thought clerics were really
Echo Knights.
Good,
Echo Knights, very very good. But still, like, the best fighter, sure. The best martial, probably. Like, need to be nerfed, too strong to exist in D&D? No.
Yeah, we said earlier, like, the Devotion Paladin or big Paladin, big...
And maybe, as I said in that video, like, maybe that is sort of like the standard of where martials should be power-wise. Like, if we really want to close the martial caster divide, well, like, this is the power level we're shooting.
It's a very magical fighter, obviously, in terms of it's a very magical effect. Yeah. Okay. So this would be. I think that was. I mean, I'll be interested. I'll watch this video back and I'll write everything down, and then I'll create a revised monk because I think that'll be really fun.
Yeah.
And I think it has been fun to do this. I think the monk is the easier fix.
Yeah.
Because we're going to talk about rogues now.
Let's talk about rogues. And you know what? I disagree with you. I think rogues are the easier fix.
Personally. Oh, do you think so? Okay.
I do. Just because, like, to me, well, how would I put it? I would at the very least say there's much more of a consensus
the rogues are bad
in the D&D community.
It's true.
That rogues are bad. They need help. Their damage in particular is just not good enough, and so they need to get their damage buffed at least. And there are plenty of pretty easy ways to do that, right? We've got this dial, sneak attack.
We can turn it up anytime.
And all you need to do is find the right amount to turn it up, right?
Yeah, actually, you're right, because we can agree. Let's celebrate the rogue for a second. They are incredible skill doers. Like, you get expertise at level 1. You can't fail from level 7 with reliable talent if you want to choose your thing. So you have the utility locked in. I don't think there's no need to change a rogue's utility.
No. No, they are among the best, if not the best, at utility in the game.
Doing things.
Depending on how you define utility and what needs to be done.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, they can't teleport, right? Like, that solves a lot of problems. They can't make everyone fly.
They can't go invisible innately.
They certainly have that in a great spot. So do you think the only problem to resolve, I mean, we spoke a little bit about defensive problems with the rogue as well. The rogue's AC is very low.
Yeah. And
uncanny dodge is not a great feature, even though it's useful. It's not a great feature.
Well, here's
especially as it costs your reaction, and rogues love getting an opportunity attack.
So that is a great entree into the conversation, I think, because anytime I do a rogue build, if I'm building for damage, as I'm sure you've experienced yourself, like, if I want them to keep up damage-wise with other, like, heavy hitters, I have to find a way to get them to use their reaction to make an attack. Whether that's multi-classing with fighter so they can action surge and then
hold an action,
or same thing, get them haste, but now you need 5 levels in a caster class, right? But get them haste so that they can do the same thing, or quicken spell so that they can quicken true strike
and then hold their action.
Or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But then if they're holding their action, they're using their reaction to make an attack. And uncanny dodge is a non-feature. Not that it's really a non-feature, but you have to choose, and choices are fine. But here's the thing: a lot of people don't like, and in fact rule that you don't get sneak attack as a reaction. It only works on your turn. I've seen a lot of people make that argument. I've seen a lot of people rule that. I think that it's a wrong interpretation.
Yeah, it's very mean.
I think yes.
Even if you believe what you believe, verisimilitude, maybe that's what they're saying. You shouldn't be allowed.
Right.
But
what I would prefer, I would actually prefer that the rogue be balanced around not needing to use their reaction to make an attack in order to keep up with damage, and say, you know what, fine, you don't get sneak attack.
As a reaction.
It only works on your turn, but
we're going to make sneak attack
much
harder.
better.
Right? Okay. And that does make uncanny dodge more suitable.
Uncanny dodge is useful again.
It's decent. Okay.
I don't know.
I like that. So before we talk about the obvious solution, which is increasing the sneak attack damage die size, do you think rogues are you happy with them? They get weapon mastery, don't they, already? You're happy with them with the limitations of sneak attack in terms of like finesse weapons, and because sometimes I'm like, I would love to do a strength monk. I would love to sneak attack with a mace.
I mean, so like I've built. Have you ever done like a barbarian rogue?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can do it, but
you can make strength based attacks with a rapier.
Yeah. So it's your D8 weapon,
and still get sneak attack.
It's just,
but not with a great axe.
I do, but if someone hit me in the back of the head with a great axe, I would consider it a sneaky thing to do. Do you know what I mean? If someone crept up and then, you know what I mean? I'd still think that was so sneaky. I did not see that coming. If you plunged me in the back of the head on the way down the stairs later, I would be like, that's sneaky Colby with his great axe.
But if you approached me with a great axe,
you're right. I might be
I might not be surprised.
Surprised. Okay, so we can leave sneak attack mechanically in terms of like how it triggers, and we've got weapon mastery, which is good because you've got Nick. That gives you 2 chances, which is really important.
Now, do they need a fighting style? Again, like I appreciate that Wizards of the Coast wants to make fighting styles for fighters.
Barbarians don't get fighting styles?
They don't.
Yeah, okay.
And for barbarians, it tends to be less of an issue because, well, at least thematically, most of us think of barbarians as big two-handed weapon users. It would be fun to be able to make a dual-wielding, like two battle axes, right? And actually benefit from the two-weapon fighting style. Because the great weapon fighting style is garbage. So nobody cares.
No one wants that anyway.
Cares that barbarians don't get, right? Because it's like, well, I'm using a maul, and the great weapon fighting style sucks, so whatever. But like I think that wizards should be more liberal with fighting styles. I think all like intended to use weapons classes
should have a fighting style.
I do.
I suppose it opens up the opportunity to create subclasses that explore that.
Yeah.
Right? Is the advantage. You could say this rogue is very trained. This is sort of like,
right.
I don't know, the virtuoso rogue or something. You know what I mean? And this is, you've mastered, and then you get a fighting style feat as part of a class subclass feature. I
mean, I guess I'll say, obviously, maybe it's not obvious, but like, rogues are going to be like either ranged attackers, and so archery is very, awesome,
very good. Yeah, right?
Or they're going to be like two daggers, or short sword scimitar. You know what I mean? And like being able to apply that dex mod +5 on that second attack is pretty significant.
Especially in the early game, right? That +3 damage.
So maybe the solution is give everybody fighting styles, but limit what fighting styles are available to you based on your class, kind of like they used to do, I guess. But like maybe rogues only get to choose between two-weapon fighting, archery, and defense, or something.
Yeah, defense would be that's another, because we mentioned AC is a problem. And
maybe barbarians only get to choose between the great weapon fighting style, whatever, unarmed, and defense, or something. Right?
Yeah. I mean, I will say it does feel very arbitrary that they have gate kept it.
Sure,
I mean, it's a decision that they've made, but it's like, if that decision had never been made, would anyone look at the rogue and be like, why do they have a fighting style?
Yeah,
I don't think anyone would ever say that.
No, it's like,
it's not like
they practice with weapons. And their martial skills.
Especially if they get it a level later. Cunning action is a good feature, but they do have space.
Yeah, I think you're
cunning
right.
Action
Level 2 as a rogue always feels a little like,
now I can do the thing, I guess. Yeah.
I guess if I need to get away as my bonus action, I can. But I was using that bonus action for an attack. Because I'm using two light weapons.
Yeah.
So now I have to choose.
So I could see a fighting style level 2. Yeah. I'm thinking of anything else we want to talk about before we dive into what will obviously save everything. Do you think there's do you think this isn't... I don't want to give this to everyone, but is there a room for the rogue to go up to a D10 as well? Or would you keep the rogue as a lighter, more vulnerable defensively?
Yeah, I think I keep him at a D8.
Okay, yeah.
I think glass cannon is how a rogue should feel. Now, that is probably due to me playing a rogue for years and years in World of Warcraft.
Oh, and that's the associated...
So I am swayed by, because in that game, at least for the years that I played it, rogues were kind of big damage dealers, very squishy. And I kind of like that.
Okay, yeah. No, I'm happy
personally.
with it. Yeah, I'm happy with it too.
But
if they have defensive issues,
but they're not big damage dealers.
Yeah.
Currently,
so we need to.
And they're squishy.
Yeah.
So do we need to really increase their damage? Do you know what I mean? If we're gonna go for that archetype.
Yeah. Okay.
Or do we also need to bring up their defense a little bit? And yeah, a D10 wouldn't be a terrible way to try and do that. Or to maybe can we buff uncanny dodge somehow and say, it reduces damage by half, but it has to be an attack. Maybe it doesn't have to be an attack. Maybe it's any damage.
Any instance of
any
damage.
Instance of damage. Take a reaction and have the damage against you.
Or maybe you... how far do we want to book it? We could even say you half damage you take this turn. You're uncanny dodging. It's Matrix style. If someone's going to try swing, you uncanny dodge, you take half damage. You know what I mean? From all 3 attacks. You just half damage for the round, the turn.
I would say... this might be too powerful. I like that. I would say like either that, or could you go the other direction and say, once on a turn, you can reduce the damage of an attack against you by half. Like, it doesn't cost your reaction.
It's just so if an enemy
if you
attacks
attack me 3 times, one of those attacks I can reduce by half.
And then
if that guy attacks me 3 times, I can
reduce it by half.
Reduce it by half. But just once on a turn.
Once on a turn.
But then it doesn't cost your reaction.
It's the problem with features like that. I think it's really good. I think it would be fine. It's just then it becomes that situation where in some types of games it's crazy, and in other types of games it's nothing. Because if you fight 100 kobolds, and every single one of them deals half damage, invincible. Who cares? It's like you essentially resist all damage. But if you're fighting one dragon making 3 attacks and a breath weapon, then it's
Yeah. I like your idea. I like saying when an attacker. Well, do you still keep it tied to an attack, or is it any damage?
I guess it's how far do you want to turn the needle?
Yeah.
Knock the knob up on that.
Gosh, I mean,
any damage?
I think you can turn it up.
I guess evasion is trying to be
the dexterity.
The dexterity.
And it's rare that you are making a saving throw to take damage or half damage that's not a dexterity saving.
Yeah, I'm trying to imagine instances.
Con.
Can you? Yeah, con. If someone, it's a poison gas cloud.
Yeah, or cold.
Uncanny dodge. Are you uncanny dodging gas? So I think it could be attacks, but we do the.
You keep it at attacks, but you make it so that for the entire turn,
half damage.
Half damage. I like that. I like that a lot, and especially especially if we are going to up sneak attack, but maybe make it so that sneak attack only works on your turn. Like, let's make uncanny dodge even cooler, right?
Yeah. So I'm just going to throw one more option at you.
Yeah.
Because we'll be good designers and we'll explore everything. What if uncanny dodge instead was you make a dexterity saving throw, and if you succeed, you take nothing, and if you fail, you take half from one attack. So instead of being half damage guaranteed, you now have, let's say you make, you just could have it like a flat, sort of like a hide check, like you need to hit DC 15 on this save, dex save, and if you succeed, 0 damage, you dodge it entirely. So there's a chance you're skipping everything. Is that having a chance of skipping all damage and then half better than potentially dodging 3 attacks at half?
I like it, and it's fun. It slows the game down, right? Because now you got to make an extra roll.
We don't like doing that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I like it. I like it. It's fun. I don't love that it slows the game down. It does feel a little bit more like, uncanny dodge makes it seem like you're dodging the thing,
altogether,
and you're not taking any damage because you dodged it. Like, like it's called uncanny dodge, but really it's like uncanny reduction.
Yeah, that's it.
It's like you still hit me, but not in the heart, in the shoulder.
That's it.
It's like
it's not.
You didn't really dodge that.
Is there a way to do this where? Is there a way to take out the roll with some clever?
Proficiency bonus times per day, you can reduce an attack against you to 0. With your reaction.
Yeah,
or something like that.
with your reaction. And then just keep uncanny dodge otherwise the same.
Yeah. So in addition, so uncanny dodge is exactly the same, but additive.
Twice per day, you take 0 damage instead. You essentially. Then you don't have to worry about the roll.
Yeah.
Or is there a way of tying it to sneak attacks? Some like how many sneak attack damage do you have?
I don't know. I don't know if
you don't really have a resource to spend as a rogue to make things better, which is a nice thing to have when you're designing, because you can pull on it to make it a bit more costly.
Other than sneak attack.
But obviously this is a reaction, so you can't really pull from your sneak attack.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's good to, if you were to just say it works for an entire turn, at any attacks for an entire turn, or maybe give them a couple times per day. You can instead
just choose
reduce
one
it to 0.
Okay, this is a fun idea. I don't know if it's good, but this is the stuff that I really like. What if you can reduce it to 0 by falling prone?
Mm-hmm. So you're playing dead or something?
Or like someone swings a great axe and you literally drop back, but you're now prone.
And so that's penalized you a little bit.
You're penalized, so you might not choose to do it.
You might give other attackers advantage. Yeah. And it's going to take half your move to stand up.
But you can dodge an entire thing by falling prone. Yeah. Or you use, so it's a reaction, you fall prone, you take nothing from that attack. Mm-hmm. Or it's a reaction, you take half damage from all attacks that turn.
Yeah.
I'm guessing the half damage would be used more, but you do have this quite fun...
Especially like if you're like, my turn is next.
My turn is next.
I'm after this guy.
Yeah, or if it's one big, it's like a purple worm tail stinger situation. Yeah, it's like there's enormous damage on one attack.
Or I got crit.
Or you get crit and it's like, I'm gonna floop down and take nothing. Yeah. Maybe you'd even take that in place of you'd give them advantage on their next attack to try and...
And then they crit again.
Yeah, because you've got advantage, yeah. But that could be fun.
Yeah, I don't hate that.
I like things like that where the mechanics are telling a story. You're falling prone. It's a mechanical thing, but you can see it in your mind's eye. You see exactly what's happening. Someone is diving under a right. You know, that feels very roguelike to me.
Yeah, it's
a very fun ability. It's the kind of thing which I would write and then get yelled at by my team. Like on the like if you're making a book, it's like, no, this is crazy, because it's too silly. Okay, I think there's defensively though. That would probably do it, right? We don't have any problem with evasion. I don't think it's fine.
Evasion's great. And again, I'm okay with them being a little squishy.
Yes, and slippery mind is quite good at level 15. It's fine. Elusive would be fantastic with that full prone feature. Because that means people can't have advantage on attack rolls against you. Yeah.
So you're just you're on the ground, but you're good at rolling.
By level 18. I actually really like this. I'm gonna I think I'll put that in. Okay, let's talk about the big thing though. So how do we bump their damage? This is what rogues need. This is the big fix.
Do you think? Okay, let me pose this question to you. A lot of people, whenever I talk about rogue damage and ways that it needs to be improved, probably the most common comment I see is give them extra attack, easy. Do you agree? Do you think they should get extra attack?
No, not because I don't think it would represent a big boost to their damage, because it's not just the extra 1d6 plus 5. It's the fact you have a second chance to get the sneak attack if you miss your first attack, which is huge. The problem is I want in my games the aura of the class to be preserved, and I think rogues to me feel like I want it to be.
I'm like, slipping a blade between the chinks of your armor.
Yeah, it's like a one. I like the idea of a one and done. I like that trade of big damage in exchange for nothing. Rather than, like, in a way, the fighter represents you're making lots of attacks, so you have lots of chances to do quite a bit of damage. Yeah. Whereas the rogue, I like the idea that you're making 1 or 2 if you take the nick attacks, but you're getting huge damage on a hit. So it's kind of an all or nothing. I think that's a cool design to have, like, as an archetype of approaching damage. Yeah. So I'd like to keep it.
I agree with you 100%. I think the meta of damage in D&D right now, if a thing exists, is find ways to add damage to every attack and make as many attacks as possible.
Yeah, that's it.
Right? Whether it's
cumulative,
conjure minor elemental spell, or rage, or whatever, and I don't want everything to go that way. I like, well, okay, in this case, like, they're making one big hit every time, right? But not lots of little attacks, or if you're using conjure minor elementals, lots of big powerful attacks. And so I like that. I would prefer to turn the knob up on sneak attack rather than give them more hits. I think it's fun. I think it's cool. But I think you got to turn that knob up. The question is how much and at what point. So like Monty from the dungeon dudes I know in conversations with him, he has said that if it were up to him, he would have sneak attack scale by a d6 every single level. So instead of every other.
So you're doing 20 d6 at level 20 rather than 10. So basically twice as effective.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is a big.
Is that too much? Is it enough? I think the alternative that I've talked about, we were talking about earlier, is to just scale the die.
Yeah, from a d6 to a d, like the monk damage die scales, essentially.
So d6, then at level 5, it's the sneak attack is d8s. At level 11? No. At level 11 it's d10s.
D10s.
At level 17 it's d12s.
Yeah, that would be. So the I like yours more because my worry about sneak attack scaling with level is that's very tempting for any martial to just grab 3 levels of like 3d6 extra damage a turn, along with expertise, cunning action, and maybe a subclass feature.
Sure. Suddenly
that's a really tempting. Maybe that's a bit too tempting because rogues are really easy multiclass too. It just requires 13 dex.
Yeah. No, you're right. And by contrast, going from d6s to d8s at level 5.
Yeah,
that's a much more significant investment.
Yeah, and it's rewarding the more roguey rogue. Like I think we got to be careful not to have like a hexblade situation where it exists only to buff other classes.
Yeah.
Although that's a cool idea from Monty, I've never heard that I've never even heard anyone suggest that. It feels very radical.
Yeah.
But I'd have to run the numbers and be like, is this actually ridiculous?
Yeah.
Or is this fine?
Here's my concern with just scaling the die, is I worry that it might not be enough if, especially, we were to say that you can't sneak attack on a reaction, because the reality is, if today a rogue is, let's say, just quick napkin math here, they're doing a short sword and a scimitar, they've got a +4 to their dex. Maybe they even took the dual wielder feat, so they're making 3 attacks.
Okay.
If they use their bonus action, right? D6 +4, D6 +4, D6 +4, 1 time 3d6, right? So you're doing 6d6 +12.
Okay.
Right? 6d6 +12, but then if you can reliably get a reaction attack, probably through multiclassing, if we're honest, unless you've got like a battle master fighter
who's giving you the commanding, order cleric, So that's 33 average damage we have.
Right.
That's the one you've just described.
Right. But then they get a reaction attack that's doing another d6 +4 plus 3d6.
So that is 4d6, 14, 18. So altogether that's 51 damage in a round for a level 5 rogue that we've just described.
If they can reliably get a reaction, which if they're full rogue, they probably need a friend to help them.
They would need a friend to help them, and we gave them a +4 and a feat, which is unlikely in dex. But yes, let's say 51 to be very generous with their stats. Maybe they rolled great.
And so then, by contrast, if we said, okay, you no longer can sneak attack as a reaction.
51.
Now you're doing the same thing, d6, d6, d6. +12. But then 3d8.
17 plus 3d8, what's that?
That's going to be 14.5?
Yes.
No, 13.5.
17. So that's 31.
Yeah.
So you've knocked the damage down from 51 to 30.
Now they still get a reaction attack in this
scenario. Yes, of course. So they get another...
apples to apples.
Yeah.
But the reaction is just a d6 +4.
Yeah, so that's only another 7.5.
So they're at 38, 39.
So you're down 13.
You're down a lot of damage. Now, you are less reliant on your reaction attack, and that's nice.
You've got it free for uncanny dodge,
right?
And
you
stuff
can
like
use
that.
Uncanny dodge. Yeah. You don't have to try to build your character in such a way that you're needing to multi-class so that you can always get yourself a guaranteed reaction, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But, the for the optimizers, for the min-maxers, you might be actually seeing a damage reduction.
Yes, and should we compare rogues to... We're comparing a rogue to a rogue here, but maybe we should look at rogue to fighter. Do you have, off the top of your head, what's your level 5 fighter average damage? Or what's a good damage amount?
Well,
is 31 at level 5, an acceptable martial.
It's not crazy good.
It's about average, and that's with investment. That's with feats. They're trying hard here.
Let's say let's say you're a fighter. You've got in our rogue scenario. Sorry, I was giving them the 2-weapon fighting style, which they shouldn't have.
Oh, they shouldn't even have.
Right, we got to knock 8 off. If they're doing Nick and dual wielding, right? So even the really good one would have been sitting 43. At a 43.
Yeah.
And that's if they were getting help, which it's tough, right? This is not exactly an apples to apples, but maybe the more accurate thing would be to say, okay, you know what? No, because thief rogues, if they can make a true strike scroll.
Yes, they can bonus action,
but then they're holding their action. Oof. So it's complicated. And so maybe this isn't the place to just sort of off the cuff be throwing out numbers without crunching them. But I guess I'm just the point that I'm kind of trying to make is, today, if you try to really min-max and optimize and multi-class a rogue and get them a guaranteed attack with their reaction
on another creature's turn,
then simply bumping their sneak attack die up to like a D8 at 5 and a D10 at 11 might be a min-maxer's character build.
It's a worse, nerf. But it's better for most rogues. Okay.
And like getting an extra so at level 5, right, we're talking 3 more damage by going from 3d6 to 3d8.
It's just not
on average 3 more damage. And then at level 11, you'd have 6d6?
6d6 up to 6d10, so that's 12 extra damage. No, 8 extra damage.
No, you're right.
Okay.
From 66 going from 66 today to 6d10 at level 11, according to our proposition, is 12 more damage. 12 more damage at level 11 than what rogues currently get. That feels significant, right?
That's kind of similar to what the monks get at level 10 with their extra attack.
With their extra
that's a then bonus 10 damage. Yeah.
But is it enough? I guess.
No, I think you're making a good case that it's just not.
And I mean, maybe we just bump the damage die and don't say you can't sneak attack on the reaction. You can still sneak attack as a reaction.
I wouldn't mind getting rid of that though. Like in terms of like because it's such a I don't like it. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
That is the problem. It makes no sense. Why? If I hold we've gone back and forth. I attack you on my turn, and I hold my action, and then now it's your turn. I attack you again. Why is that different from me attacking you and attacking you again? Like before you do anything. But mechanically, that's a ridiculous difference. So it makes no. It really shatters the illusion that this is real.
I agree.
To me, so I would love to kill it.
I hate, having to always feel like I need to build around it, and then now I don't get to use uncanny dodge.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It's just like so.
We need to maybe we just need to buff him more.
Maybe a d6 per level is not
too crazy, or a d6 alternate
2 every. Do you know what I mean? Keep the scaling at the same pace.
3, 5.
Yeah. That might help your problem of people wanting to take a couple of levels of rogue.
3 levels of rogue it would still be very good, but 3d6 extra damage turn for 3 level investment in otherwise not the greatest.
Yeah, I mean, if you're doing that, you're probably, let's say you're a level 5 ranger or fighter, and now a level 3 rogue. So you're level 8, and you took 3 levels of rogue in order to get 3d6 damage once per turn. It's not nothing.
Yeah.
It's not nothing.
You're probably going...
But it's not... It's crazy.
Yeah, it's not enough. The damage alone is not enough. You would have to really want cunning action for some reason, or really want steady aim for some reason,
Expertise.
or really want a rogue subclass feature,
Subclass.
that there's you wouldn't do it just for the, which is good, because I think you might potentially grab 2 levels for just 2d6 if you just have them free. You'd always be like, I'll throw on 2. Especially as it's got to be finesse weapons too. So it's not like barbarians, they're giving up their d12 for a d8 to get 2d. You know, so maybe, yeah. So let's, if we napkin mathed that, it's not quite as good as getting a reaction attack, because you also get the attack with your reaction.
Right, the weapon.
But basically we've doubled the damage of sneak attack.
Yeah.
And we've obviously quadrupled it if you crit.
Yes.
So they get really crit fishy.
Yes.
So champion.
That's.
fighter,
I mean, is that a problem? Yeah. Now every rogue wants a champion fighter dip. And is that a problem? Like, do we go? Oh man, like
40 d6
at level 5, if you crit, you know, you're going to be doing
20 d6 at level 5, right?
Well, it would be no.
It's
it would be
1,
5.
3,
Yeah.
5. Oh, 10 d6. 10
yeah,
d6.
10 plus your weapon, so 12. 12 d6 is a lot of damage at level 5, but you know, you're only critting 5% of the time. If you have advantage, you're critting 10% of the time.
And you're only making
if
one
you
attack.
have
or
elven
maybe
accuracy.
2. Yeah.
Every rogue is an elf.
Yeah, every rogue
From
would
now
want to be
on.
an elf. So the people wouldn't like this either, but you could do the paladin thing and say, word it in such a way that it is never doubled on a crit. So you could even be like, you know, Divine Smite is no longer doubled on a crit because you crit and then you activate your Divine Smite, you deal extra damage. So you could word cunning sneak attack in such a way that it isn't doubled on a crit, which is a shame.
Yeah.
Because it's fun.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Unless you gave it a different effect on a crit. You could say, like, look, Cunning Strike is not doubled on a crit, but you roll an extra d6 equal to your monk level, rogue level. No, because that's the same thing.
I say we let it ride. I say a d6 per rogue level, or 2d6
at level
at 3, 2d6 every time it scales.
Yeah, so 1d6, 3d6, 5d6.
And let it go. And now,
and then you can't do it on someone else's turn.
Right.
So that's the trade-off.
It does. You don't get sneak attack. So the wording to sneak attack has changed to once on your turn.
On your turn. Has to be on your turn.
Not on a turn.
And then it does mean the meta changes to, you don't get rid of that problem where monks will grab extra attack where any way they can. So we're still going to be nicking probably most of the time. Which is a shame, because I feel like ranged rogues suffer by comparison, because if you miss, even with the archery style, if you miss your ranged attack, it's really tough.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, though you can dual wield hand crossbows.
You can, yeah, it's true, especially with the fighting style at level 2 potentially.
And archery is nice. Yeah, if we're giving them a fighting style. Yeah,
fighting style feature.
I like it.
I think a fighting style at level 2, the sneak attack fix, we'll call it like the Monty and Colby fix, came together. That was a really good idea. It's a really good example of how in game design as well for D&D, often an idea, it sounds undoable, but actually if you just, all it takes is like a very tiny manipulation to how you present information, or like, and suddenly it's totally fine again. And you don't need to throw out the baby with the bathwater.
And I still think, frankly, that, you know, especially if you're considering magic weapons, and if you're considering all the ways that there are in-game currently to add damage to every hit, I still don't think that rogues, a straight class rogue, right, single class, I don't think they're going to be, like, destroying other damage-focused builds.
No, with so it's 20 d6 at level 20, which is 35. No, 70 damage.
Right.
70 damage, but you only get 2 chances, presumably.
Yeah, maybe 3.
Maybe
if
3
you
if you really push. And meanwhile, the fighter's attacking maybe 6 times. And
action surge.
Yeah, but we'll
and they
forget
might
about
have
resources. But yeah, they may well be dealing at least like 15 damage a hit.
Yeah.
So
they've got great weapon master.
Yeah, I'd hope so. They would at that level.
You know, like.
So they're probably still out damaging you. The rogue's defenses would still be a bit rough.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of your AC would be low.
Mm-hmm.
Your hit points are low. Yeah, I think that this would be fine. Is there anything else that we'd... Oh.
Cunning Strike.
Yeah.
Do you like the cost of Cunning Strike?
Well, you know, the funny thing is actually Cunning Strike gets so much more... I don't at the moment. But actually it gets so much more bearable because we've just doubled the amount of dice that you have. So all of a sudden this really obnoxious...
You are right.
Like, oh, you know, I want to trip them up, or like, oh, tripping is pretty good, but you've got to sacrifice 1d6 of my 3d6.
Yeah.
So I'm down an entire third of my damage to try and knock them prone. It's just not worth it.
Yeah.
But giving up one of your 6d6, I'll give it a try. You know?
5. No, you're absolutely right. I was ready to make the argument that that we should remove the cost of Cunning Strike at least at 5. For
the poison, trip, and withdraw. Yeah.
Poison, trip, and withdraw. And then at level 11, maybe one of them is free. You know what I mean? Not both of them. But like if you want to do 2, you can, but you have to pay for 1 or something like that. And then at 14, that's a little trickier.
They have to cost the same.
I was gonna say maybe we reduce the cost a little bit.
Oh, really? But yeah.
A little, but that was going to be my argument. But I think you're right. I think if we're doubling the number of sneak attack dice that you have, well, now this cost, I think, is a lot more palatable.
I think the only consideration, like, to play devil's advocate is are these too cheap? Some of them. Daze is con save, and it's worse than, I mean, monks are stunning people on a con save, so that's probably fine. But knockout is unconscious.
Knockout is really good, and
again,
it's a Constitution saving throw.
Subclass feature.
It works until they take damage.
Oh, it ends if they take any damage. I'm just worried that if they... Oh, yeah, I'm worried you knock someone unconscious, you tie them up, and you win.
They get to repeat their save at the end of their turn. And again, it is a con save. Like,
they should be passing
like this
quite
foolproof.
Yeah.
You know, it's better than stun.
Yes.
But it's the same save, and...
it's also level 14.
It's level 14.
So we've
and
got
6d6. I mean, at that point, again, according to our new system,
it'd be 14d6.
Yeah, so it's almost half of your damage to try it. I think I'd probably keep it. I think at level 14, you know, full casters have 7th level spells. Almost.
You're right.
8th
level spells.
Give them something cool.
You're right.
Powerful.
If you compare it to the 7th level casters, I think. So if we just made those changes, which is fighting style, pretty much it's fighting style and it's
fighting style
and improved sneak attack.
The buff to uncanny dodge.
Oh, the buff. Yes, the uncanny dodge buff and
double their sneak attack.
Double sneak attack, but not on enemy's turn. Would that be enough to put Rogue into high B? Do you think?
I think so. I would definitely want to play with it and crunch some numbers.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
It would be funny to do that and be like, oh crap, we broke it. Like,
let's see if it's
they're
ridiculous.
Destroying everything. I just really have a hard time believing that, you know, that they would just suddenly be like way outpacing everybody, doing an extra, you know, at level 3 an extra 3.5 damage. At level 5, an extra 7 damage.
Relative to what they're doing now, which is not that crazy. More importantly, it gets rid of this reaction optimization, which everyone is annoyed by, and you kind of have to do.
Yeah. In fact, I would say that, you know, if you can no longer get sneak attack from a reaction, but you get double sneak attack dice, and I did a build for it, I bet that build might not actually outperform on the spreadsheet anyways some rogue builds that I've done
using double sneak attack.
Yes, exactly.
No, I'm sure it wouldn't, but it would, because the problem is most people aren't playing rogues like that.
Right.
Like most people are just rocking up with their rogue and they're a bit confused as why they feel like they suck. Like compared to, like if you're a new player, it's like why am I really weak?
Or they're playing at a table, and this is one thing that I think is worth mentioning, because I do see comments from people that are like, "You're crazy. I don't know what you're talking about. The rogue at my table out damages everybody," and And part of me wants to go,
yeah,
well, that's because the other people at your table
they're
aren't
the
very
wizard
good
is
at
like
building a damage dealing character.
They're trying to Melf's acid arrow. This is so strong. Like I'm gonna cast this every turn.
I mean, like they can be, and at early levels they can particularly feel good, and when they crit, they feel amazing, right? But like I think if you were just to take an objective view and have somebody sitting over at the side like calculating, writing down how much damage everybody was doing, you know what I mean, and crunching numbers, assuming that people are trying their best to build characters that like deal a lot of damage in combat, you know, most of the time they're just not gonna perform as well as a lot of other damage focused characters. So
yeah, I mean it's worth reflecting that this game is about how people feel, not about the reality of the situation. If a class feels really strong and it is actually there are some, I think people love Blade Singers because Blade Singers feel really good, even though actually mathematically they're not particularly great. It feels really good to have a big number as your AC, and it feels really good to make an attack and then a booming blade attack. You know,
I think they feel good, and they are.
Okay, I'm not saying they're bad for sure. I'm not saying they're bad, but I think feeling, and if this rogue feels really strong, even if it's not, that is also worth reflecting on. Maybe it feels too good, but I mean, I'm hesitant to say. Oh, this is why playtesting is important. You'd playtest it and you'd get it back, and this is, you know, you could say make this change, and then if the rogue is way too good, you could lean into Glass Cannon even more. You could knock them down to a D6 hit dice.
Yeah, I
could be like, let's make them like a wizard level tanky.
I could definitely see playtesting this and being like, it's too strong at like level 3. Do you know what I mean? Like at level 3. Like I'm way outclassing everybody damage-wise, and maybe level 4, right? I don't think by the time you got to extra attack for other marshals,
you'd probably be fine.
It would feel quite so powerful. But yeah, I can see somebody being like, "Gosh, at level 3, I'm making a couple of attacks with D6 weapons, and I'm adding 3d6 once per turn. That's more than, you know, what my teammates are doing by a significant amount. But I think by the time level 5 rolls around and everybody else is getting extra attack, it will feel pretty balanced. So maybe there's something there. Maybe you could say
you could. I mean, symmetry is very attractive. It always is. Yeah. We want to find symmetry.
But maybe there's nothing wrong with like it could leapfrogging.
It could leapfrog around.
Rogues are really good at level 3.
Oh well, I was gonna say symmetry in design. Like sneak attack, it's attractive to say 1d6, 3d6, 5d6, but maybe it could be 1d6, 2d6 at level 3, 4d6 at level 5, 7. I know that feels unpleasant to human beings because it's like, no, I want it to be the same every single level, especially D&D players. You know, like they like we like our like numbers smooth scaling. But actually, if I would be inclined to try the elegant looking solution first, but if we find it's too powerful, you come back and you're like, okay, look, sneak attack, it was 1d6, 2d6, 3d6, 4d6, 4d6, 5d6, you know, like whatever. You like can kind of like, because Barbarian's rage bonus isn't tied to proficiency. It's very arbitrary as well. It just comes in at random levels. It does feel very like, what is this, you know? We could change that. I'd change that about Barbarian too. I'd have that scale with proficiency. Okay, I think, I'd be interested to write this up and see how it looks on paper too. It's fewer changes. Really, it's really only uncanny dodge and sneak attack.
I think the bones are good. You know, we've got the right dials. I think we just need to turn a couple of them up a little bit, and then you're in a much better place.
Yes, and of course this change makes the stroke of luck capstone even better, of course. But that's fun. Cool. Okay. Yeah. I think we've got some. This was really fun. I think
we probably went long.
We probably did. As we go. Well, no, we're not too bad. I think what is it, an hour and a half? We'll lose about 35 minutes to coughing breaks. No, we're good. We could definitely do something like this again for Rangers and Barbarians, I bet. Definitely optional.
I like that.
So it's coming up. Every class could use
some
tweaks. I'm sure
tweaking.
if we're talking about like in a perfect world, maybe we even bring down.
Oh, I know, but I hate nerfing stuff.
Yeah, bring down
It's
paladins.
Like, how to nerf paladins.
Yeah.
That'll get a ton of views. Yeah, everybody's
so
gonna love that
upset.
one.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
It's a
Well, thanks for
beautiful
having me
town
on.
that you live in.
Oh,
thank you for your hospitality and for hosting me.
I'll see you at. We'll probably do something together at Gen Con, even if it's just a YouTube, like a hello picture, or like maybe a live stream. Cool. Okay. Well, see you later. Colby's channel, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Love you. Make sure you follow Will. D&D Shorts. If you're not subscribed, what is wrong with you?
Yeah, come on. Absolutely. It's like this channel but worse. So if you,
that's why you guys 3 times my subscriber base. All right. Let me crunch down my cough drop really quick. This will go in the outtakes.
We got it.
So, in my outtakes to every video, I sing a song.
Oh, okay.
While I'm pretending to set up, like the lights and like.
Oh,
things like that. It actually started. Okay, this is.
It
I'm gonna leave
behind the hind. Okay, behind the scenes.
This is funny. So years ago, it was legitimate. I turned the camera on and then I'm just like fiddling with the lights and fiddling with the microphone and I was just like singing a song like as I did it or whatever. And then as I was editing the video, I'm kind of laughing at myself and going, you know what, like I'm gonna put that in. I'm gonna put that in like an outtakes reel at the end. You know what I mean? And then it just kind of became a thing where like I'm always singing a song now. But it's pretty intentional. Like at this point, I know that like I'm gonna be singing a song, right? So it's not like I'm like, oh, like do like I'm thoughtlessly singing as I'm getting ready. It's
you're putting
what
on
song should I sing for the outtakes this week? You know what I mean? So, anyways, it started off as like a legitimate thing, and now it's all just very, very staged. So the point is,
all smoke and mirrors.
You need to sing a song for
I guess we need to sing a song, right?
No, well, we could do a duet.
We could do like a
Islands in the Stream.
You're going way too complicated. I do know that.
Yeah,
from Les Mis. Yeah.
I'll be Javert.
Yeah, that's it.
You be Jean Valjean.
Don don. What is it? Javert. I can't remember the words, but I do love Les Mis.
I can't sing.
I was like, your throat is just so gone.
I can't sing today. That's why you need to sing.
At last we see each other plain.
Monsieur the Mayor, you'll wear a different shade.
Yeah, I started that way too low.
You
can go down there today. That's like a bottom.
Yeah.
That's a bottom A at least.
I got sexy cold voice. Jade.
That's lovely. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah.
So I'll do a very light edit.
Yeah, perfect. And we'll just
and just throw something.
I'm guessing you won't do anything with the green screen, but you can if you want to.
Nah.
It's kind of just put
you charming. Just
here.
Me.
Yeah, just you in
half and cut off the shoulder. Behind it, like a hobbit window.
Oh, beautiful! Yeah, make it look like it's really nice outside.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, it is stunningly nice in England right now.